Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Valeria Alo.
Hola, hola. Hello, good afternoon. Buen provecho. Thank you for having me. It is an honor to be connecting today from New Jersey, and I'm hoping that technology will be helping us. Give me a thumbs up if all sounds good. Hopefully we are not breaking up. Excellent. I see Dr. Patty there giving me a thumbs up. It's great to be with you, to be here with Familia. And today I appreciate this space. I appreciate all the leadership and work that went into this event. I appreciate the team at Her Element Foundation and also the University of Phoenix for sponsoring this space for us to come together. So what we're going to be talking about in this time and space is how the ponte las pilas, or as we say in Argentina, ponete las pilas, cannot really last and cannot hold unless we first go inside, look within, embrace our struggles, acknowledge all those cultural limiting mindsets and scripts we were talking about, with the purpose of coming out of that experience renewed, re-energized, and stronger. Why? Because then when the seat opens at the table, we will not be just thankful for being there. We will not feel guilty or uncomfortable being there. But as we go within and we reclaim our power, we're going to own our space, the space that is really ours and is waiting for us to take it. And we will do so with pride and with confidence in the values that we bring. We will recognize ourselves as a blessing to the organizations and the communities where we serve, with our presence and our voice. So my name is Valeria Loe, founder of the Rising Together movement, and I would love to share a little bit about my story and why I'm here. I'm born in a small rural town in Argentina, a very small rural town called General Belgrano. And I was born in a very loving family, very blessed to hear throughout my childhood, sí se puede, yes, you can. And part of that was the dream my parents had for me to become the first one in my family to go to college. My father did not even have the opportunity to go to high school. And my mom went to high school, but college was not what women from a small town could afford back then. So I became a dream and a hope for the family, even though they didn't have the money to pay for my education, but they had the dream. And I held on tight to that dream. And at the age of 18 years old, I moved to Buenos Aires, the capital city of Argentina, and I started my college degree. I graduated, I was working full-time, graduated with 2 degrees from Universidad Católica Argentina with honors, and I became the first one in my family, not just to graduate from college, but to step into a corporate space. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no roadmap. I had no guidance. I had to figure things out, and I had no one around me to ask if I was doing the right thing. So I kept going through multiple corporate experiences. I was blessed with opportunities, doors that opened. And one of the doors that opened was to come here to the US 20 years ago, back in 2002, for my MBA at Dartmouth. So we took, my husband and I have been married for 1 year. We took huge student loans, and we came to the US with a few bags and lots of dreams. Once we graduated, I continued my corporate career. I had my kids, Valentina and Tommy. And in 2016, after a very successful career, very promising career across 7 countries, speaking 3 languages, I burnt out. All my life, I had heard, sí se puede. And I did the ponete las pilas thing. I did that every single day. I pushed hard. And looking back to that experience of how I had burnt out, which was more than a burnout, it was a very dark time in my life. My kids were 6 and 7 years old. I had a beautiful family, healthy family, access to education, access to spaces that no one in my family had achieved before. And I achieved mobility, upward mobility, more access financially to anything that I could get. But I was very empty inside. And in 2016, I embarked on a mission to understand why I hit a wall. And as was mentioned before in the previous panel, spirituality became a pillar in my life. I started a master's in spiritual sciences. I'm now doing the doctorate in spiritual sciences. And part of that was to look within and see what happened, because I couldn't understand, my mind could not understand how after all that effort and investment, I hit a wall. And something that I discovered was that coming from a very loving family that all the time said, si se puede, as I heard other women saying before, there was also another message in my house that was not so verbal, but was very clearly present. That was, it is very hard for us to make money. Opportunities do not come easy to us. We need to sacrifice to make money. And if you see my story, I did both things. I did the si se puede, I achieved, but I also sacrificed myself. And that was not a message that was verbally repeated, but through what I observed, through what I could see my parents talking about, I absorbed that message. And then I learned that beyond that, there were cultural messages from authority figures, from people that I trusted, that were ingrained in my mindset. So I am here today to share of all that I have discovered and researched for my book, Uncolonized Latinas, because as I took a step away from my corporate life to recover from these burnouts, I happened to be invited, and there are no coincidences in life, to an event with the Hispanic Chamber. That was the first time that I was immersed in the Latino community. I had been the only Latina in the room, and suddenly I find myself surrounded by Latinos, immigrant Latinos, Latinos born here, Latinos who spoke only English, only Spanish, a variety of Latinos, and I felt home. I think it was the first time that I felt home in the US. It was a deep immersion into who we are. And I was invited to lead an entrepreneurship program for Latino business owners. And I said yes, even though I did not know what I was getting myself into. But by then I was used to not knowing what I was doing, no roadmap. So I said yes. And the experience of walking next to Latino entrepreneurs to see their struggles, even throughout COVID, was very enlightening. And the most important value that I reclaimed for that was that I could see that in the same way that I had my self-doubt, that I had my limiting mindsets from my childhood and what I had experienced, I saw that reflected in them. I saw how we worked very hard for little money. I saw how we're afraid to speak up, to negotiate. I saw how we're afraid of going after opportunities because we think we are not prepared. I saw a cultural pattern. And that's when I became passionate about this topic. I said, there is something cultural about us that is so amazing, but also there is something that is not really working out. We are a paradox. We are absolutely powerful in the US. We bring the amazingness of our culture. We create relationships. We're caring for one another. We're familiar. We give hugs to each other. We really care. We are passionate. We put all our energy into what we want to create. And on the other end, we are relatively and quite absent in spaces of leadership, in spaces of visibility, and in spaces of wealth creation. We do not create wealth in the way other communities do. We are behind. So at this point, the question is, what can we do about this, right? Because we could change, we could wait for the system to change. And we know that the system is absolutely slow to change, or we can take ownership and understand that we are creators of our lives. There is something we can do to change this story. We do not need to wait for the system to change. We do not have enough time. The system has not changed for decades. It's changing very slowly. So what can we do? Because the day there is a seat at the table, or the day we create a seat at the table, We need to sit on that chair, absolutely convinced that we do belong and we do add value. And we need to see that these cultural mindsets and scripts will get in the middle of us succeeding. So that's what we are here today. And I have a proposal for you, because today we're creating history. And this event right here is historic. It's an event that is creating history for our communities, not just Latinos, but other communities of color and our allies who are here to support us. This is a historic day. So the invitation today is, I'm going to start by summarizing the three roots of these mindsets, and I'm going to call them as they are. We need to name these things, as we have been doing throughout the morning. Why we need to name it? We need to put like la ropa sucia, the dirty laundry, on the table to take a look at it so we can clean it, right? So we need to name these mindsets. We need to name the roots of these ways of thinking and behaviors, because when we name them, we gain authority over them, and that's when we can change them. That's exactly why we need to see even that makes us uncomfortable. So my invitation is to look at this, not through the eyes of shame or guilt, but to release the shame and guilt and to see and look at them from a place of hope and possibility, from a place of this can be changed for the highest good of all. And we are here today to create history and to change them. So the first one of these elements or mindsets at the roots of what's holding ourselves back is a sense of lack and inferiority. When I first came to the US, my culture in Argentina had told me throughout my life that I was raised in a third world country. Now they call them developing economies. Developing economies is friendlier. But that's what I heard all my life, that I was born and I was coming from a third world country. Imagine how I felt coming to the first world economy. I felt very small. Even though I came to an Ivy League for a high education degree, I held myself back. I couldn't talk, I couldn't participate. I wanted to hide because inside of me, I felt inferior. I felt that I had nothing to contribute to those around me. So that is what the culture where we come from has influenced us to believe. And that's been going on for centuries. I have to say, even from the times of colonization, the depletion of our lands, and what has happened over time, the creation of systemic poverty, the struggle and the trauma that we have mentioned before in this day, all of that create this recipe for feeling that we come from a place that has been labeled as second class. The second one is servitude. Our culture influences us to feel that it is not okay to put ourselves first. We were influenced to believe, and many times unconsciously, that we are not supposed to put ourselves first, that that's selfish, that that's not what we should do, that being a good human being is putting the needs of others first. And that happens particularly with Latina women. And we heard that before in the morning as well. Cleaning for others, right? Making coffee for everybody. But how about if I'm tired, or if I want to have the time to talk to the VP in the company? That's putting yourself first. That's putting your agenda first. But in some way, we were influenced to believe that it is not okay to put our agenda first. And what is more pervasive, we were influenced to believe that wanting more is being greedy. So then what happens is we put all our dreams in the backstage, right? All our dreams get hidden, get postponed, and we serve others, and we may become even bitter about it. That's a cultural influence that has a connotation of it makes you a good person to serve. But at the end of the day, if you don't put the oxygen mask on you first, there is no way you can help others. Something that comes to mind right now is an experience from my friend Monica, who was working in a corporate setting as the only Latina in the space. And she's on the phone talking to a client, and this man who is a coworker stands next to her waiting for her to hang up. And he seems to be desperate for her to hang up. So she stops the call and she looks at him and says, what's going on? And this gentleman says, Monica, the kitchen is a mess. You should go and clean it. I had a similar experience roughly 10 years ago in corporate America, that I was calling from home because one of my kids was sick. And the CEO of the company, when I finished talking about my projects, he asked, are you done? And I said, yes. And he said, Valeria, now you can go cooking or babysitting. So it is very tough when you have this ingrained unconscious way of thinking that you have to serve. And when those around you put you in a bucket that you are supposed to be the servant, it is very hard. You know, the system has been pervasive in that way. But we have an opportunity here to look at these experiences through the eyes of they are doing the best they can with what they know. Through the eyes of forgiveness, through the eyes of releasing their resentment, and through the eyes of understanding that everybody is really doing the best that they can do with what they know. There is a third one that I wanted to mention to you, that is silence, and this has been addressed before. Calladita te ves más bonita. There is another one related to this that is absolutely pervasive for us who want to create our businesses or who want to progress in our careers, which is talking about yourself. Se ve mal. It doesn't look good. We don't talk about ourselves. So we stop talking about our victories. We stop talking about our successes. And we hold ourselves back from winning. In this country, in the US, you are expected to talk about yourself. And that's a lesson that I had a very hard time embracing, that I had to speak up, that I had to advocate about myself. So as we look into all these scripts and many more that you will be discussing throughout the day, we need to look at this with compassion. We need to give ourselves grace. Why? Because these scripts are mostly unconscious. Research shows that 95% of our mental activity, 95% of our thinking that influences our behavior, 95% is unconscious. So we are not even understanding that these limiting mindsets, cultural scripts are running us until we have conversations like the one we're having today to increase our awareness about them. But there is another layer. How many of you are parents? I can see many of you in the room. Raise your hand if you have children. I see many hands are going up. So something that happens with these cultural scripts, and because they are subconscious or unconscious, is that we pass them on to our children. Innocently, we pass them on to our children. And it doesn't have to be verbally. Sometimes it's by making a face or making a comment or talking to a friend on the phone, or, you know, somehow kids absorb that. So today, as I said before, is a historic day to break the chain, not just for ourselves, because yes, let's put ourselves first, definitely yes, but let's also break the chain for our kids, because guess what? 32% of Latinos, Hispanics in the US are younger than 18 years old. Those of you who are mothers are sitting here with me today. You have power. You're raising the leaders, the future leaders of this country. And as you create history for yourself, you're creating history for your kids and for the country. We are many in the US. We're 60 million Latinos. We're going to be 111 million in 2060. We're driving the economy, and we're going to continue to access those spaces of leadership if we break the chain today. So here's a choice, or more than the choices, here's a question. So how do we create change? How do we change these mindsets? How do we create change in a way that change persists, that is sustainable, right? And that's why I started the Rising Together movement, to create change that lasts, so that these conversations continue, not just in conversations and in inspiration and knowledge, but in action. We need action. We need to do something different to break the pattern. So what I want to share with you are 5 steps that we put together to help you create change in your mindset, and in your world so that we can break these patterns of limitation, so that we can embrace the power that we have, and that so that we can step into those spaces that belong to us: leadership, visibility, wealth creation for ourselves and our families. Yes, are you ready? Yes, okay, excellent. So step number one. Step number one is awareness. This is what we're doing here today. So what is awareness? And what do we need to be aware of? So awareness is pausing, is taking the time to look within. So if you ask yourself, what do I need to have awareness about? Awareness of yourself, awareness about how you feel, about your inner voices, particularly when you are in a situation that triggers you. For instance, something that triggers me, I learned, is to be in a meeting with all white American men, not just one or two, 10. If I'm the only woman there or the only Latina, that triggers me big time. All of these mindsets of limitation, of silence, of inferiority, they come to the surface big time, and I hold myself back. But knowing that I can be in the moment, being fully present in that meeting, and I can see within me how I'm feeling, I can see how what I'm experiencing has this ancestral root that I don't need anymore. And by knowing that, I can change my behavior on the spot. I can support myself to succeed. So awareness of your life within is the first step. The second step is to clear the interference. So all these mindsets are noise in our heads that we don't need anymore. So these are interferences, lack of clarity, noise, confusion. It has different names, but we need to start clearing this out. How do we clear the interference, particularly when it comes to these ancestral ways of thinking? Through forgiveness. We here in this room, we're probably the first ones in our families to be in this space. Yes or no? Raise your hand if you're the first one in your family to college or the first one in your family to your profession. Guess what? It's absolutely uncomfortable, right? When you're the first in your family to access to some spaces, it feels uncomfortable and all this noise gets louder inside of you. I'm not sure I belong. I'm not sure that I have what it takes. That's the time to clear it. And the forgiveness comes to forgiving how your culture, our ancestors influenced us. But most important, we need to forgive ourselves because we have believed information that is not true about us. That's where forgiveness is super important. And I want to read a little short line from the Bible, Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When we clear the interference, we renew our thinking, we renew our mind. Why do we care about it? Because clearing the interference is a way to connect with your true essence, with your leader within, with your wisdom inside, with your soul who is seeking for purpose on this planet. That's why we care about clearing the interference. The third step is shift the what if. So culturally, the what if has been, what will they think about me? What if I fail? What if it doesn't go right? What if all the negativity, right? What will people say about me? But how about, and I love this was also discussed in the previous panel, how about what if my dream can be achieved? Looking into our dreams, our goals, our aspirations, and instead of looking at what if I fail, it's like, what if I succeed? What if what I do really brings value to myself, to my family, to my community? So we need to shift inside of us the what if. And I want to share something. It's a tool that I learned in my Master's of Spiritual Sciences, which is, remember that I mentioned before that 95% of all this noise is unconscious. And as we start clearing that or paying more attention to them, they will come to the surface, right? But the question here is, how do we change the unconscious? And there is a technique, research-driven technique to change our unconscious, because we don't want the unconscious to have all this outdated information, mindsets of limitation, ancestral struggle. We need to heal from within, right? And a way to replace what we have in the unconscious is to take the old and replace with the new. And it's proven by research that if in a moment of deep relaxation, you think about your goals, you look at them with colors, with noises and smells and sounds, with all the senses, and you immerse yourself in that experience, you are programming yourself to achieve that. It is proven. So how do you get yourself into a deep relaxation? If you're busy like we all are, it's very hard to do meditation every day. But there are two moments in time during the day where you can get yourself into deep relaxation without even wanting to. One is when you wake up. As soon as you wake up, think about your dreams. What a beautiful way to start your day, by the way. Put in your mind what you want to achieve, your dream, your goal, your big dream. Start programming the unconscious. And the second time to put this in your mind is when you're about to fall asleep. That's where all this talking mind that we have and all these voices within that we have are getting subtle, smaller, gentler. And that's the space in that deep relaxation, in that calm, to insert what you want to hold in your unconscious, the images of success that you want for yourself. So one more thing that I want to mention that has been absolutely powerful for me is when those voices of limitation come back, because they will come back. There's work ancestral. There is a lot of stuff in our minds and in the unconscious. So these things will keep popping up to the surface. When the self-judgments show up, when I feel less, I feel I can't, who do you think you are? You know, all those things that we tell ourselves that are not very lovingly, they show up. Instead of pushing those voices away, embrace them. Love your voices of limitation. Love your human experience at 100%, what you like about it and what you don't like about it. And as you embrace and love those voices that tell you that you're not good enough, the love will dissolve them. Give it a try. So step number 4, take action. So far we've been thinking about how do we change the mindset and the way we think, and what tools do we have to start reprogramming the way we are influenced, right? But I can't tell you, I can't stay all day here telling myself I'm worthy of success. I believe in myself. Sí se puede, ponete las pilas. Yes, I can. But unless I take action in the outside world, nothing will change. So what type of action are we talking about? We're talking about micro steps. We're talking about, and I invite you to think right now, what's the one small step that you can take now? Based on everything we have discussed, based on what you have learned about yourself, based on your most prominent cultural scripts. Maybe the next step is to speak up in that meeting that is coming soon. Maybe a next step is to set up time for yourself because you deserve to put yourself first. What is that next step? It's a micro step. It doesn't have to be huge. So please think about it. Put it down on your phone, take notes, commit to do something different. But it has to feel meaningful, and it has to be an action that breaks the one cultural mindset that has been holding you back the most. A small action will break the pattern. A small action followed by another small action, by another small action will break the pattern. And finally, we all need a GPS, particularly those of us who are new and we don't have a roadmap and we're new to these spaces. And I want to quickly mention 3 pillars that if you want to have impact in your life and you want to take action that is assertive, you need to consider this. 1, build your brand, put yourself out there, talk about yourself, share about your greatness and your amazing achievements. Important. 2nd, build a network of sponsors and mentors. Create relationships with people that are not like you. If you're a Latina, they are not Latino. Go to people who are in power, go to people who have succeeded and ask them for help. And number three, become comfortable with speaking up even when it could be a different opinion than the rest. Like to be the one to raise your hand and to say something, even if it's different from what everybody else thinks. Have your voice. It's important that our voice, our opinion, our points of view get brought to the space. When we have a seat at the table, it's expected that we do so. So throughout this time together, we uncovered the ways our culture have been limiting us. We uncovered steps to start changing our mindsets, and we discussed some areas in where we can take action. But I want to wrap up with one thought, that is a new togetherness, a new culture. Did you know that 70% of Latinos and roughly 60% of Black individuals are younger than 50 years old? We're busy building our careers. We have families. We are struggling to make it all happen in a day. And on the other side, 40% of non-Latino whites are older than 50 years old. If we work together and if we share the knowledge, the roadmap, the guidance, we can go as a country to a very whole new stage, particularly because in 2060, the US will be 56% diverse. Almost 60% of individuals in the US by 2060 will be people of color. We need to work together. We need ourselves as communities of color, and we need the allies. And to wrap up, I want to read you a short paragraph, not the full book, a short paragraph from my book, Uncolonized Latinas. I believe we are witnessing a merging of the culture of the mind, which has created economic progress and technological advancement, with the culture of the heart that is perhaps more present in our Latin American countries. The culture of the mind is effective at developing new technologies and creating progress, while the heart energy is mostly about nurturing, collaborating, and compassion. As the energies of the culture of the heart get more fully integrated with the technical skills and power of creation of the culture of the mind, the sky is the limit for our planet. We are experiencing the birth pains of a new humanity. Thank you for having me here. We're in this together. Together is the only way out. And now we can open it up to any questions you may have.